Hello and welcome back to Strong Woman High's Dash Life is a Mishmash. Today we have very special guest all the way from down under. It's Red Wyatt.
Windle,
Wyatt.
my new married name.
Windle. Ooh, new married name. Sorry. Red Windle. So, Red is an Australian strongwoman with multiple Australian records under her belt. She's also a world, international, and national champion in strongwoman. Massive big background in sport as well. So, do you want to give a brief introduction to the pod? Let everybody know a bit about yourself.
Sure thing. So my name's Red and I live in Brisbane. Am I the first Australian guest that you've had on here?
You are the first Australian
So
guest.
that's cool. I've been like a strength athlete, gym junkie, I guess, for the last 12, 13 years. Started out just doing like general Globo fitness stuff at a commercial gym. I did powerlifting for a couple of years, strong woman for 7 years. I now compete predominantly in Olympic weightlifting. And Highland
Nice.
Games I do on the side for fun. Like as far as strong woman goes, I'm still very much connected to the sport. I ref and time keep and load and score, and I do all those kind of helper roles at various different strongman competitions because I love the community. Although I don't actively compete as a strong woman anymore, I did achieve what I wanted to in that 7 years of strong woman. I won nationals down in Australia three years in a row, 2018 to 2020. And then, COVID hit,
Yeah,
training took
good
a
old
bit of a back
COVID.
seat there. Yeah, but came back into it, broke a couple of Australian records, got to compete over at OSG and the Arnolds in South Africa. I achieved what I wanted to. And then sort of as I started to age a little bit more, I wanted a new challenge. So I'm 40 years old now,
Yeah,
so I'm a master's athlete. And I
crazy.
wanted to try Olympic weightlifting because I've always loved moving a barbell. Like years ago, I think I did a bit of CrossFit and I love the clean and jerk. There's
Yeah,
something really, really powerful about being able to press a huge amount of weight over your head. And, I kind of like that a little bit more than like a log press.
yeah,
Log was
yeah.
never a good event for me.
No.
And I'm a registered nurse by trade, so that's what I do in my day job. I work with veterans with complex mental health and physical health challenges. So definitely
Wow.
keeps me very, very busy. And
Yeah.
trying to juggle like shift work and stuff with training can be a real challenge as well.
Yeah, I bet. It sounds like you never have a minute to sleep, you. Be off your feet, won't
I got
you?
up early just for you, Becca.
I know,
The
and on
time
your day
difference.
off as well. No, that's amazing. Oh, there's so many things I want to ask you about then. Well, first off, what drew you to Highland Games of all things? Is that a big thing
Well,
out in Australia?
Well, it's obviously bigger in Scotland where it originated, but my mum is Scottish. That's where I get my red hair. So I do have
Nice.
that Celtic background and heritage. And kind of what inspired me to do it was the Dinny Stones. When I went to Scotland in 2022, this is probably my strong woman high. If you're gonna ask me that next,
Yeah.
that was probably my biggest feat of strength that I've ever done. I trained for it for 2.5 years.
Wow.
I was originally going to go over and do it in 2020. Again, COVID. We couldn't travel internationally. We couldn't even leave the country. So that kind of put things on the back burner. But I was still training for it, doing lots of group related stuff,
Yeah.
deadlifts, posterior trains, exercises. And I reached out to Chloe Brennan.
Yeah.
She's such a good egg, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a good
And
egger.
people like Donna Moore and Emma Jane Smith and any woman that had done it, I just asked them like training tips, and I said I'm really keen to do this. And I finally did it in 2022. And when I was in Scotland, everyone wears kilts at these kind of festivals and the bagpipes are playing. And it felt like home. Like, even though I was
Yeah.
born in Australia, my mum has always, kind of brought Scottish traditions into our household and things like that. And I said, I actually want to like try and do Highland Games as a sport.
Yeah.
I will say it's kind of like for fun. Like I train it not as much as I would do like for my strongwoman days or for Olympic
Hmm.
weightlifting. But it's kind of one of those things where you just go and throw some implements into the distance and have a good time with it. I don't take it as seriously as I did with strongman or with my Olympic weightlifting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like that's quite like a common thing with Highland Games, though, isn't it? Because it doesn't feel like there's as much pressure on Highland Games. It is serious
Yeah,
competition, but it's just pretty chill, isn't it? The vibes are chill.
yeah. Well, like the traditional Highland Games events, there's 8 events. Have you ever been to a games before
Not
and
not a
seen it?
legit one. I've done like pretendy ones, but not
Pretendy
proper
ones,
ones.
yeah. So they've got
Yeah.
like the hammer throw, that's light and heavy weights, 2 separate
Yeah.
events. They've got the stone put, kind of like a shot put, light and heavy stone. They've got the caber toss, which is the big blanket wood. That's
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite events. I've started to get a bit more proficient with it now because my husband made me two cabers, a light one for
Nice.
training and a heavier one. So after like practicing with those in my local park, the neighbors are looking at you weird, like, what the hell is she doing?
Throwing big trees around over there. Who's
Yeah,
she?
and the weight over bars, so it's sort of like a kettlebell swing, and the height of the bar goes higher and higher, and it's sort of like a knockout event.
Yeah.
It's some Highland Games, they'll have the sheaf toss where you sort of toss the bag over the rack,
Oh
um,
yeah.
and light and heavyweight for distance. So those are like the traditional 8 events. Sometimes they'll have sheaf as well.
Yeah.
And in Australia, there's the culture of Highland Games. There are some federations, but they're quite far away from where I live. But we have a,
Mhm.
a good training crew in Queensland, and leading up to competitions, we'd all get together on a Sunday and we'd be throwing for about 2 or 3 hours.
Oh
So
my
we'd kind of
god.
run through all of the events, and it's been good to have people to actually train with.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like in March of this year. So I went down to Melbourne and I competed at the International Highland Games Federation, IHGF, World Championship. So that was like a really,
Nice.
really big event in Melbourne. And they had, like, I think they said the crowd was up to like 8,000 or like 8 or 9,000 with all the
Oh my
tickets
god.
that they counted. So the crowd was pretty awesome. Um, and I came fourth at that one in amongst some like incredible women that have been doing Highland Games for 15 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
very little for Highland Games because a lot of these women are over 6 foot tall. I'm 5'4".
Yeah.
I definitely don't have the height to be, like a pro Highland Games athlete because I'm just too short. A lot of these women they've got the width and the height, but I do
Yeah.
it for fun, and it is really good fun.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I do like a bit of Highland Games. I think if there was more legit comps where they were doing the actual events here, I'd be interested in them. But in
And you
England,
get
it's
to
a
wear
bit
a
like,
kilt,
yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's right. Bit of crack, that, innit?
a bit of crap.
Um, good bit of crack. So, in terms of then the dinny, so if that was your strongwoman high, what did you find that the biggest challenges were when you were training for that, other than COVID? Because
Well,
that's
I
too
never
easy.
actually hit the full weight of the Dinny stones before doing it in person.
No way.
Oh, yeah, because they're 344 kilos combined. The
Yeah.
heaviest stone is 188 kilos, and the lightest stone is 144 kilos. And obviously, when you're pulling two different weights, it can set you off balance. So, what would happen
Hmm.
is I'd have the heavier stone at the front with my right hand because that's my dominant hand and my stronger grip. And as you would start to stand up the lift, the back one would just kind of come off the ground a bit easier, and you'd really have to sort of lean back and pull that front shoulder back to get the heavier stone up. I
Hmm.
never hit the full weight. I think the heaviest I did was 305. So that was still like a good 30 or so kilos off
No
from,
way.
the actual weight.
Yeah.
But I will say, like hook grip never fails. I know Chloe's talked about this as well. I did the lift with straps,
Yeah.
with figure six straps, and I was the ninth woman in the world to do it. And my goal was to be top 10. And I
Nice.
know there's been several women that have done it after me, but I can, like, that's something that will never change, to
Yeah.
be number
In that
9
top
in the
10.
world.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason that such a small group of people have done it because it is really hard and it
Yeah.
tests you. It was such a it really, like, made you work on your patience and your resilience. And some days I was like, I don't want to train dinner stones today because my thumbs are killing me. It felt like my thumbnail was being like sheared off, because you're picking them up and they're just like your little hands are trying to hold on, and the calluses
Yeah.
that you get and the rips. Um It was really, really hard, but it was a goal that I'd set for myself. I was actually inspired to do it by Lee Holland Keane, who's another Australian strong woman. Have you heard of her? She's based in Sydney.
I don't think I have, no, which
Yeah,
is
Lee Holland.
unusual for me because I'm a bit of a creep. I know
She's been
everyone.
around for a long, long time, like probably 10, 15 years. And her mum was actually one of the women who kind of like paved the way for strong women in Australia. Unfortunately,
Oh,
she passed
amazing.
away a few years ago, but her legacy is still around.
Yeah, I'll look into that. I'll look into that.
She did that in 2018, I believe, and she was the second woman in the world to do it. So back in 40 years prior to that, Dr. Jan Todd was number one,
Hmm.
and then 40 years later, Lee did it. And Lee's a good friend of mine that I met through competing. So I said she was like a 65-kilo woman at the time, and me
Crazy.
being like an under 82 like strong woman, I was like, hey, I've got 20 kilos on her, like if she can do it, I
Yeah,
can do it. And I said, I know I can do this, but I had to have a plan, and use the SMART goals acronym to work through that, like
yeah,
specific, I'm going to do it on this date in this location and I will lift the Denny stones. Like measurable, what kind of time frame am I going to do, is it achievable? And I said I had to keep telling myself, yes, it's achievable. uh,
yeah.
Realistic, planning to get their flights, accommodation, like all the logistical side of things,
Hmm.
and tea with time. And then obviously I'd set that goal, was training for it, to do it at the gathering, like Donald Dinny Day, which is an event that Stevie Shanks holds. That's massive now. Like so
Yeah,
many
that is a big
go
day,
there.
that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just gotten bigger and better every single year. And then, unfortunately, that had to be put on hold. And then 2 years later, I came back to do it. So that's what made it so much sweeter, because there was such a long time in between when I'd initially set that goal to when I actually
Yeah,
got to go and do it.
that's awesome. That's so
And
cool.
and
It's
they
so
came up
cool.
first go. Like
Yeah,
I
that's
was like
class.
shocked because I was like, okay, but I guess the crowd and the atmosphere. I said I didn't pay thousands of dollars to come all the way to Scotland to not get this lift. I know I can do this. I've worked hard for this. Um, I actually wrote down some affirmations. I don't know if you ever do that to
Yeah, yeah,
create that sort of like positivity, but the I read myself those affirmations like every day from about maybe 4 weeks out. I've got
yeah.
them on my phone if you want to hear them.
Absolutely, yes. Tell us the affirmations. We want to hear them.
And I was a bit scared like writing them, because like the goals that I'd set myself were a little scary.
Yeah,
Um, okay. It makes me a bit emotional when I like think about it, but okay. So my positive affirmations, I wrote these on the 18th of June, 2022. So I will, and will is in capitals, lift the Denny stones on the 7th of August, 2022. I'm strong. I'm capable. I've trained hard for this. My grip will not fail. My hook grip is solid. I will be controlled and composed. I won't let nerves or self doubt get to me. I will be patient and I will keep pulling until they come up. I won't ever give up. I get 3 attempts, but I will get them on the first go. I will summon every ounce of strength that I have. I will stand proud with the wind beneath them. Pain is only temporary. My calf injury is irrelevant. I tore my calf 2 weeks before going. Um, the crowd will support me. My partner is there to support me. I will make history. I will be the ninth woman to ever lift them. I will back myself that I can do this. I will make my friends and my family proud. I will make my coach and my sponsors proud. My success will taste so sweet, and my 2.5-year goal in the making will come true. I will enjoy celebrating all of my hard work.
oh my God, I love that. That's so good. Yeah, I love those. That's great affirmations. I think that's class, but I genuinely believe that's such an important thing with this type of thing as well, like manifesting those goals and making sure that you know exactly what you want and what you're aiming for. And I think
Mm.
there's not enough people pay attention to that side of this.
That's exactly right. Like mindset is a huge thing. Like I am a nurse and I'm specifically clinically trained in mental health. Like I did my master's in mental health nursing, and a lot of the stuff that we teach our clients when they're in recovery is having, the willpower and the resilience to believe in yourself that recovery is possible, or like a
Yeah.
goal is possible. There'll be bumps in the roads here and there, but if you kind of, flounder to the challenges that are thrown in your way, then you're never going to get anywhere, are you? You have to keep doing hard things,
Yeah.
do things that challenge you, because that is how you grow, as an athlete, as a person, in your relationships, in everything in your life. If you just don't do hard things and stay comfortable, you'll never change.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. You've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, haven't you?
Yeah, and I mean, I used to do that for strongman comps as well, because there'd always be different events for every event, every competition. I'd write down, the weights, and if it was an AMRAP or one RM, for time, and I'd write like, this is the weight, this is my goal for the event. Comparison, I heard you say this the other day, comparison is the thief of joy. I love
Yeah.
that quote,
Yeah.
because it is so true. Rather than saying I want to beat that person, or I want to win that event, I would say, this was my training time. I want to shave 5 seconds off that in the competition. My
Yeah.
goal is no drops, or my goal is, this or that. And I would have to make it really specific using that SMART goals acronym, because I've always been a goal driven person. And I have
Yeah.
this visions board in my garage gym downstairs. I plan out my comp calendar for the year. This is what I'd like to hit, and this is how I'm going to do it. And sometimes things change and life priorities get in the way, and you have to like
Yeah.
adapt and overcome and readjust your plan. But if I don't have like a competition set for any sport, I sort of just flounder around and I just go a bit
Yeah.
rogue and go off program. And it's just like, I'm never going to get anywhere, because I have to have that structured, programming. And, I need to know
Yeah.
like how long I've got to do the thing.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Sabrina, we were talking about this the other day as well, because
I
she's
listened to
very
that
much
one.
like that. Yeah, where she just sets herself goals and gets in her own lane and goes, right, this is what I can do, this is what I can control. Let's aim for
Mm.
that. If it doesn't work out, then that's like not a big deal, but like it just is what it is. Focus on that, like your personal goals with that. And I love that. I wish I could be more like that, but we're working on it.
You can
It's a
mold that
work in
little brain of
progress.
yours.
It just takes time. I'm one of them people, like, listen
It
to what I
does.
say, don't do what I say. Like, I'm
And
stupid.
how long have you been doing strongman for?
So I've been doing it since 2019. Like, end of
Yeah, so
2019, I
that's
started
years.
training. So I'm in like 6 years now.
Yeah, that's like that's a good amount of time, but there's like people stay in this sport for like ages. Like look at Kiki, for example. I
Yeah,
listened to your podcast with her as well. She's a veteran of the sport, and you sort of like take a little bit from those kind of more experienced, mature athletes that have been around the game a long time, and see what they do to prepare for a competition. How do they get
yeah,
their, not just their physical like body prepped, but how do they get their mind prepped? That is like a huge aspect of it. So that's why I always say to people, if you're struggling with comp day nerves, or the anxiety. So I've seen people throwing up before they're about to do their first event, because it just
yeah,
gets too overwhelming for them. Go and see a sports psychologist,
yeah.
because they will like train your brain into being able to feel confident going into those really hard things.
100%, yeah. So I have a sports psychologist, cerebral well-being, Amelia. She does, yeah, she
I
does
love
a bit
that.
of work with me, and she's awesome. She's really, really good. I don't like. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible client, because she literally messages me and is like, "How are you?" And I'm like, oh, "I'm having an absolute breakdown." And she's like, "Do you want to do a Zoom call?" I'm like, "Oh no." I'm too busy. I like don't prioritize it whatsoever, which is so ridiculous. But I think when I start getting back into comps a little bit more, I'm going to start like actually putting some work in and paying attention, because it's a very
Mhm.
valuable resource she's got there that I'm just sort of ignoring at the moment, because I'm like, oh god, life's too hard.
Yeah, I
Can't
mean, I
do
know
this right now.
you know that saying, like you always want to like do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah,
I do find mindfulness is good for a bit of stress relief and helps you wind down at night. I'm not someone that
mm,
does it every day, like you. I'm a busy gal. I just don't have the time. But I do notice myself, if the stress is creeping up and there's like other life stuff going on, I'm like, I need to dedicate 10 minutes to myself to just pull out my phone and go on the Calm app, or there's like plenty of mindfulness apps that
yeah,
you download for free and do 10 minutes of meditation. And when you slow your breathing rate down and you're being mindful and paying attention to, the thing,
Yeah.
then it can really just chill you out a little bit more, and it helps you be a better person for the next day.
Yeah, 100%. So she taught me like a visualization technique, and I used it for Brits last year because it was a 90 kilo log, and I was like, fuck, like I've hit it in
Maybe.
training, but like it's hit and miss at comps, isn't it, log? So you can never bank on it. And I remember going into that and being like, I just need one rep, one really good, smooth rep. And I was like imagining it happening in my head. I went to sleep that night dreaming about it. I was like, I've got this.
Did
Went
you get
out,
it?
hit the first rep, smooth as fuck. It was so easy, and literally just lost my head. Just like got so overexcited because I'd done it. I'd done the thing that I'd planned to do. Couldn't get another one. That was
Oh,
it.
you got one rep. At least you didn't zero.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was buzzing about it. But when you're just like, that showed me immediately there that when I did put that focus in, and that like I was paying attention and I was focusing on the thing that I needed to do, everything went according to plan. Everything worked. The minute I lost that level of concentration and let like my old brain take back over and be like, everything's so much fun. There's so many people. This is so great. Everything went out the fucking window. And I was like, perfect example. Within 60 seconds there, I've learned more about myself than I have done in like 10 years.
It works. The science behind it works when you do the affirmations, the mindfulness, the prep, the visualizing the lift before it's actually happened, dreaming about it. You make it
Yeah.
very focused and attentive. I've just had a brain fart. I was going to say something about the oh, I've totally lost it. No,
It's
I was
all
like,
right.
yes, you have a good point, but I was listening to your story about the log. It'll come back
It's
to
fine.
me. It'll come
We'll
back
come
to me.
back to it. We'll
That's
circle
menopause
back.
brain for you.
We'll
Brain
circle
fog.
back. We'll circle back. It's fine. It was like I'm surprised that my brain's still in my head, to be honest, at this point. This is the end of like a fucking 12-hour shift for me. I'm like,
Because
oh
you've
yeah,
been on placement, haven't you?
oh yeah, today, yeah. And it was bad. It was Sunday discharge day, the worst
When
day
will
of
you
the
be
week.
qualified as a physio?
3 weeks.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Yep, the
It's when
time is
you
counting
because you've been
down.
studying for a couple of years now, right?
3 years, yeah. It's been fucking
Yeah.
long.
It was so weird when I finished my nursing, my paramedic degree. I did a dual degree with both disciplines. That was 4 years of full time study, and I had to do prac for both nursing and for paramedics. So, all of the uni holidays when most people were out, going on holidays, having a good time, I'm there in the ambulance
Working.
or in the hospital working for free as a
Yeah.
student, still doing 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
And then when you graduate, you're like, what am I going to do with all this free time? I don't have an assignment to do. I don't have an
Yeah.
exam to study for. And then you actually start making some decent money in your profession. And it is the best feeling ever. So
Yeah.
just even to get through the grueling length of study, that is a huge achievement. And to juggle that with doing competitive strongwoman as well.
Yeah, no, it's been hard work. Thank you, thank you. No, it's not been my favourite thing. I probably won't do this ever
And then you
again.
can
But
like treat people at strongman events when they're like, oh, I've got this niggle here.
I know well, that's the goal. That's the end goal. But
I'd love
we'll
to see
see.
that.
I don't think I'll be getting a job in the NHS at this rate because the NHS aren't employing physios anymore because they don't care
Oh,
about us. So
hmm.
that's been nice to finish off that 3-year degree.
Get a working visa for Australia. We always need physios. Our
Hey,
allied.
yep, I've been getting loads of adverts about that. I've been thinking about it. I've been like,
Have you been to
well,
Australia before?
no, I haven't. I've been to New Zealand before for a couple of
Not
weeks, and I
the
loved that. But no, not the same. But about the same amount of travel for me. But yeah, I would love to go to Australia. The only thing that concerns me is how much everything can kill me because I'm a bit of a curious
snakes,
fiend,
spiders,
like yeah,
crocodiles. You
a bit of a
know,
feral goblin girl. I like being down in the swamps, but the swamps are definitely there, aren't there?
well, yeah, a lot of people who have never been to Australia sometimes have that fear of all the crazy insects and like venomous snakes and things like that. But unless you're going bushwalking on your own and it's late at night, or swimming in a river in Darwin or something where the crocs can get you, if you plan ahead, you can be
You'll
pretty
be alright.
safe and have a wonderful time here on a holiday.
Yeah, I'm sure I would enjoy it a lot. I'm sure I would really like it, but I'd be in bother. I just know it. I feel
It
it in my
might be a bit hot
bones.
for you. A lot of the pommies come here because they love the sun and the heat, and the beaches. And then like even sometimes some of our winter days, because I live in Queensland, which is the hot part of Australia, our winter days can still sometimes be 25 degrees Celsius. And you guys are like, oh, that's like our middle of summer. But
I'll
our
die.
summers here can be like 40 degrees Celsius, and they are hot and humid. And you walk outside just to go to your car or something, and you are like sweating, sweaty upper lips, sweaty eyelids. It feels like you're in a sauna because the humidity in the air is just
Oh my
disgusting.
god.
And trying to train in that type of heat, most of the gyms are like a tin shed with like, a fan going around the ceiling. They're not air
No.
conditioned.
No.
Sweating, and it's
That
very,
sounds
very
rough.
hot.
That sounds really rough. Yeah. You're not
I
selling
actually
it.
love cold weather. I'm a bit of a snow bunny, and when I finished school, I spent 5 years doing back to back winter seasons teaching skiing and snowboarding. I traveled all
Nice.
around the world. And I loved being in cold temperatures. If it was snowing, if I got the chance to ride down mountains and have a
Yeah.
great time, I loved it. But I don't like it when it's cold and it's not snowing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Did you,
Wind.
where have you done your seasons at? Did you do Japan?
Mhm. Yep, yep. So have
Hell
you heard of
yeah.
Nisekko?
Yes, that's where I was because I did a season there too.
Oh, what year were you there?
Um, oh my god, when was I there? 2018?
Oh,
Maybe a
well
bit
before you.
before that.
Yeah, I was 2006 and 7 and 2007 and 8. So they actually sponsored me to come back for my second year.
Nice.
And in the Southern Hemisphere winter, I worked at Mount Hotham, which is a ski resort in Victoria, in Australia.
Yeah.
Obviously, the snow quality is nothing like what you would get in Japan.
Yeah.
And I did a couple of seasons in America, in Lake Tahoe. So my dad's American, so
Nice.
I was really lucky I could work there without a visa because I have American citizenship and passport.
Yeah.
And I also did Banff in Canada. And
Yeah.
every kind of alternate winter, I'd come back down to Mount Hotham in Victoria. So 9 back-to-back winters I had.
Wow.
Didn't see the sun for 5 years, but that was okay with my fair skin. I didn't mind it because I got to snowboard,
Yeah.
something like 200 days a year, which was pretty epic.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, I never managed to get the back-to-back seasons, but I did quite a few in like I did Japan, I did France and Austria and stuff, but I was always coming back for the summertime, so having the English summer and then going away for the winter. But
Yeah.
I very quickly realised I could not make enough money to survive out there on my
Well, that's
own.
what I mean. It's you never make enough money doing it. You just do it for the love. It's like you sort of scrounge together enough to get your next
Yeah.
airfare to the next place.
Yeah, that's what I think I ended on like 2 grand down, and I was like, "Wow, this is a shit investment. I need to stop."
I still try and get to the snow every year. I used to, as I said, 200 days a year or something on snow was my norm.
Yeah,
But every year I've gone for a holiday to like New Zealand or back to Japan. There's so many resorts in Japan that I have been to, but still yet to experience. We went
yeah,
to Whistler over Christmas last year, my husband and I, and that was pretty rad. Like, there's lots of stuff to see and do in the village there, but Canada was quite expensive for us to travel from
yeah,
Australia, and just our airfares were like 3 grand.
yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Did you do
Mm.
risotto in
Yeah,
Japan?
I went to a conference there. I got to present at the Emergency Medical Services Conference. So it's for doctors, nurses, and paramedics.
That's so
And
cool.
yeah, like, because I went there as a participant. I think it was 2018, and I made friends with like the organizers, who are two guys, two paramedics over from Perth. And then like years later, like I kept seeing this pop up, like the conference was coming up, and I emailed them and I said, "Hey, I've just finished my master's in mental health nursing. There's a lot of stuff going on about the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide at the moment, and I'd love to do a presentation on mental health and my work as a case manager, and if this would benefit you at all, like, let me know." And they said, "We would absolutely love to have you over here." So
Yeah.
used that as a tax deduction, went for a holiday snowboarding in Risutsu,
Hell yeah.
claimed my flights, my airfares, and they still paid me to come and present at the conference as well. And I got to
Class.
speak about something that I'm really, really passionate about in front of 300 people. So that was a massive career highlight for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I feel like there's a strong woman ski and snowboard trip coming on here. Like,
Oh, yes, I would love that.
I'm building a right crew of us here. I'm like, right, we've got a plan. We're all going to Japan. We'll see you there.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, I'll sort that out. I'll get organised in this. Don't worry. Right. Well, let's bring. This has been too nice. Let's bring the mood back down then. What's been your strong woman low?
Yeah, I was thinking about this one. It would have to be injuries. Um, I think
Fair.
it it certainly puts things into perspective when you have a significant injury.
Mm,
I can think of two major ones. The first one was in 2019, where I was prepping for the Arnold Classic, and they held this down in Melbourne. Um, my first Arnold's was in 2018, and I got third on points, but I got fourth on countback. So I
right.
just missed out on the podium. So the
Yeah.
following year, 2019, I was so determined to get onto that podium, and I'd been training so hard. Prep had been going exceptionally well, and I was like, maybe I could win this.
Yeah.
Um, 4 weeks out from the competition, I was lifting 115 kilo Atlas stone. And as I was extending up, I tore my quadrus QM, I think it's called, quadrus
Quadratus
lumborum.
lumborum. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I was like, your physio would know this.
QL. Bastard
Yeah.
QLs.
Yeah. And when that happened, I was just like lying on the floor of the gym, and I'm like, I can't move. Like I thought I'd, done something like hectic to my spine, because my
Yeah.
my feet and my legs were starting to go a little bit tingly, and I was like, I
Yeah.
can't move onto my side. I can't move upright. Like I was like, I feel like I'm like stuck here. So I had like some Panadol, some Nurofen, put some ice on it, and then like eventually I was able to get myself in my car and drive home
Yeah.
from the gym. But then when I got to my house, I couldn't get out of the car. I was like stuck there, and I said, I feel like I've done something like serious to my back. So I called an ambulance, and they
Yeah.
had to give me the green whistle to get me out of the car and
Oh
like to the
God.
hospital. They did some scans, and they sent me home with some endone. They did, yeah, imaging said like nothing's broken. You probably just got like a soft tissue injury. Then I had
Yeah.
some physio and stuff after that. But that was 4 weeks out from like a major competition. So I couldn't do deadlifts, stones, nothing that was like on the back. And I was just kind of moving my body, trying to do like lightweight stuff. And then I said, I'm still going to go down to Melbourne, because I'd booked my flights and everything, and I trained like really hard for it. And then I said, I'm
Mm,
just going to have to trust my body on the day, see what I can do on the day. I think I came sixth or something. And there was like 20 people in the under 82. So it was like, it was a stacked class.
big one.
It,
Yeah.
it wasn't what I wanted, obviously. But
Hmm.
that injury kind of, it was so close, 4 weeks out. So that was like a bit of a strong woman low. The other low was my other injury was where I tore my calf. So
Yeah.
this happened in 2022. Kiki had invited me to go over and compete at FIFO in the Stones of Strength. And we had met at OSG in 2019. And yeah, got along like a house on fire. And I'd always seen FIFO advertised and thought that looks like a great thing that I'd love to go and compete at. And so we planned that trip with going to Dubai first as a stopover, to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, over to Scotland to do the Dinny Stones, and then Ireland,
Nice.
Wales, yeah, back home. So it was like a 5-week trip. On the way over in Dubai, I trained at Strength HQ, which is like a massive gym there. The guys that run WUS,
Yeah.
so that they hosted it. And I was doing a farmer's carry, and I just kind of put my stride a little bit too long, and the back of the weight plate of the farmers whacked me in the calf, and I immediately took a knee and was like, oh, that hurt a little bit. And then I started limping around, and I was like, shit, I can't actually put any pressure on it, it's really sore. And then it got bruised and swollen pretty instantly. And
Oh.
that next day we flew out to Norway, and when we landed, it looked like an elephant's leg. Like it was fluffy, full of fluid. Like my
Oh.
whole calf was black and purple at this point. And everyone at FIFA was like, maybe you should get an ultrasound, because what if you have a DVT? Like you've just been flying, like that could be life threatening.
Yeah.
You could get a clot and die. And I was like, yeah, shit. So Kiki took me down to the local medical center, and they did an ultrasound. They said, yeah, you've got a grade 2 tear in your calf. And this was
Shit.
like a few days before I was meant to do the Pro Stones of Strength at FIFA. So didn't get to compete there,
No.
which was really sad. But I made use of the time there for the week, and I helped out with, the scoring and stuff like that. I was just, couldn't really walk around on it. My husband actually got me a wheelchair from the airport because I was like, I can't carry my bags. I'm just in so much pain.
Oh my God.
And then it was like 2 weeks after that um, I went to do the Dinny Stone. So that's what made it so much sweeter is I did it with a torn calf, but it
Yeah.
was a static lift, just up and down. There's no way I could have done like moving events and stuff with the torn calf, and
Yeah.
that took about 6 months to fully recover.
Oh God. Yeah,
Mm,
that's a long time, isn't it?
mm.
No, that's fair enough. There's nothing worse than a fucking injury setback. Like I've torn my QL as well, and that is painful as fuck, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's why I've always had other hobbies outside of the gym, because I think I've heard like Chloe talk about this as well. Is if you put all of your eggs in the one basket, if you have an injury, that could be the end of everything for you, and you lose that identity and that piece of yourself. But I've
Yeah.
always, I love like music. I play the piano. I sing. I like going hiking. Um, you know, my dogs, like animals, seeing friends, like family is really important to me. And having, outside hobbies outside of the gym, just in case you do have some time out from the sport and you still need to make your life fulfilled and enriched in other areas.
Yeah. I feel like we talk about this on the podcast all the time. I'm like,
Mhm.
because I'm a big believer that you need other stuff outside of this sport. Like, I've been caught out by it before with an injury that takes you out, and then all of a sudden you're like, what is my identity now?
Yeah, it's like, what am I going to do with my life? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I
I
think,
mean,
yeah,
it is great though. I feel like when you are actively competing in strength sports, you're at the gym several times a week and you're seeing the same people several times a week. They become like your family, and you
yeah,
both kind of go through those grueling training sessions together. And when you compete together, that brings up a lot of emotions and like that connection with
mm,
those people. I'm sure you can relate to this, where some of your closest friends now would be people that you've met through competing
yeah,
or just
100%,
like in
yeah,
the gym. They become your second family, don't they?
yeah.
And when that's kind of taken away from you, when you can't train anymore, it is really hard. And a lot of people go into like really deep states of depression if they don't have outside hobbies from that.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Yeah,
Hmm.
100%. Well, so moving on then, what would you say to yourself when you first started the sport?
I would say a lot of people go, "Oh, I'm not strong enough to do strongman." And they're too scared to compete.
Yeah,
I would say just get into it. I kind of said that initially because I'd come from powerlifting and I'd always looked at strongman and been like, that looks way more fun than squat, bench, and deadlift.
yeah,
And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll just do like a novice comp. Like, I don't think I'm strong enough to do the under 82s weights. Um, and then one of my friends was like, Red, like check yourself. You have been doing powerlifting for 2 years, like you are strong. Just do the 82s. And I had to sort of just be like, yeah, okay, right. Why not? I'm just gonna
okay,
do it. And I did well. I think if I could, go back to when I first started, I'd just be like, yeah, just jump right in. But I think it's quite normal for people to be a bit tentative and go, oh, I
yeah,
might just wait a year, build some strength, like learn the events a little bit more before I sign up to my first competition. But just do it, because the only
yeah,
way that you're going to learn is if you just dive right in, you know, just
100%.
get
I
stuck in.
agree. I totally agree. I love that because I think a lot of people are very nervous about starting, and it's just that get as many competitions done in that first year of competing as you possibly can, because like that's where you're gonna learn the majority of the lessons that you need to learn in like comps. Like I did it. I must have done like nearly 20 odd comps in my first year of competing. I think I counted it
Mhm.
out the other day, and I was up to like 30 odd comps in like maybe 3 years of competing. I was like,
Yeah,
fucking
wow.
ridiculous
Yeah,
how
I
many I'd
think
done.
my first year of competing, I did quite a few as well. Maybe it was like 8 or 10. And that was a mix of strongman and I was still kind of doing powerlifting then as well. And like a Highland Games one thrown in there. But
Yeah,
um, yeah. And then I just think now at 40 years old, I have to plan my comp calendar. I'll do like a states and nationals, maybe an international comp if it's on the cards. But my body now is not what it was 10 years ago when I, started competing. I have to
yeah,
really sort of work on my recovery. Yeah, and these kind of things, it's like hard to juggle. But if you're young and you're fit and you're just like, cool, I just want to give it a go, yeah, get into it. And a lot of the time you will learn from your mistakes. I can honestly say that like I did become a better athlete because I competed a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
And there's some things that really stick in my brain that I will never do again in competition.
Hmm.
One thing that comes to mind was this event at Australian Nationals 2017. That was my first year. And there was like a carry event where there was three big chunks of wood. They were just like trees chopped and just like odd shapes and implements, talk
Yeah.
about random stuff to carry, but this was the true test of it. And I had done it in training and got splinters in my hands because it was like you're picking up pieces of wood that, they weren't like lacquered or polished or anything like that. And then on comp day, I was like, I'm going to put some gloves on. I'd never done it in training. I
Just
just thought
randomly.
on competition day, I'm just going to put on
What
some
can go
like,
wrong?
gardening gloves that had a little bit of grip on the fingers. And I lost my dexterity and I fumbled like two out of the three implements. The first one was fine because it was lighter, but the second and third were a bit heavier. And I fell over, tripped over my damn feet, and then picked it up and couldn't hold on to it properly. And that cost me serious points.
Yeah.
So I'll never do that again. Always train how you will compete and don't
Yeah.
change it on comp day. But that was my second comp. And,
Yeah.
I was very
You don't
naive.
know
Like,
that. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm a big believer in that. I think you just don't know these things until you try them, and you wouldn't know not to change anything last minute at comp day until it's too fucking late and you've done it. Now you've got
yeah,
to pick
or
up the
like,
pieces.
you see a lot of like people that are fairly new into the sport and they cut weight on their first competition. I'm like, if it's for a novice event or, if your first comp, just compete at the weight that you sit at or do a
Yeah,
novice like level rather than going into a weight class if you're not sure, like if you can't hit the weights, but do not cut weight for your very first competition. I would only ever do that for a high level comp because
yeah,
it would make me more competitive to be that lower body weight.
yeah.
Speaking of that, I'm actually in a bit of a calorie deficit at the moment for my first international weightlifting comp, which is coming up in 7 weeks
Oh,
in
exciting! Where's that at?
Singapore.
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 Oh
So
my
this is
god!
for the Singapore Weightlifting Festival, and it is a
Wow,
masters event, a Commonwealth Masters World Championships. So
nice.
I've been doing weightlifting now for 2 years, and it has been my goal to tick off that trifecta. Not many people can say that they've competed internationally in three strength sports. So I did
Yeah,
it with strongman, I've done it with Highland Games, and the third one will be weightlifting very
that's
soon.
awesome. That's going to be so cool. That what a cool goal to tick off as well. Who's going with you to that?
So my husband will be coming. We've got like a week over there to like a few days before, so I can like manage my low fiber, low residue, maybe a bit of a water load, depending on how my weight is tracking leading up to it. But I
Yeah.
only get a 2 hour weigh in weightlifting, so it's not like a 24 hours we have to refeed
Oh,
for strongman. So it's quite rough.
not them big
Um,
water cuts then.
Oh no, I don't want to do that. But I've got my little breakfast here prepped at the moment, which I made last
Oh,
night.
very nice.
So I'm on about like 2,000 calories on my non-training days and 3 on my training days. And I've got a sports dietitian. She is so amazing. Like so far, I've lost 5 kilos with her. I've got about
Nice.
another 5 to go. And I was like freaking out, going, "How the hell am I going to do that in 7 weeks?" But she did say if I can get to about 88, because I sit about 90, 91, and
Yeah.
my weight class is 86. She
Okay.
said if I can get to about 88, flying out, then we can manipulate gut contents, the few days before with like a low residue diet. So I'm going to
Yeah.
have a little tester of that next weekend and see how it goes. Yeah, but it is something that's given me a bit of little bit of anxiety because it's like I've never
Yeah.
missed a cut ever. Um, Even when I was doing like under 82 and I competed at under 75 for my first international strongman show for
Wow.
USS, United States Strongman. That was
Yeah.
in Memphis in Tennessee. And that was 18 months into doing strongman. I did my first international comp. And I thought if I do under 75, I'll be way more competitive. And I came third at an international show. So it was worth it. I
Yeah.
suffered through it, you know, having to just sit in saunas and like, do the hot baths the morning of the weigh in. but I made it. And again, like I said, I'm a goal orientated person. If I set myself something, I'm committed to achieving it. And,
Yeah.
I don't want to let myself down, don't want to let my coach down, my dietitian. I've already signed up and registered for the 86 kilo class. So they
Yeah.
said
Can't
that
go back now.
if you don't make weight, you can compete as a guest lifter only, but you're not entitled to achieve any of the records or get any medals or anything like that. And I said, well, I don't want to do that.
No.
I'm going in with the numbers in my head that I want to hit, and I want to be on that podium. So I
Yeah.
have to be on the 86 kilos.
Absolutely. No, I love that. You'll be able to do that. 7 kilos in 5 weeks is 5 kilos in 7 weeks, did you say? That's
Yeah, but if I
you'll
can
smash that.
lose like 3, which is very doable,
Yeah.
then yeah, the last sort of 2 or 3 kilos would be with gut content manipulation with low fiber.
Yeah. You'll be fine with
I
that.
know you've done a few weight cuts yourself.
I've done a few weight cuts, and that sounds like a sensible one to me. That's too sensible for me. That I wouldn't be panicking yet. I'd have
When's
waited
your next
until.
competition?
Oh well, I'm actually the next comp I'll be doing is opens because I'm doing the Scottish Strength Cup at the end of next month. I'm not sure. I'm not paying much attention because I haven't trained for it at all. So
Yeah, you've
I'm
been busy
hoping
with
to just wing it, to be honest. Yeah. Well, I was thinking, well, like I'm just busy with placement. I ain't got time to train, so I just thought, what's the worst that can happen? Be a bit hard
Yeah, and then you
work.
don't have to stress about a weight cut if you just do the opens anyway, and you're strong enough to do it.
Be all right one, and it'll be a bit of crack. But my plan
You'll be
was
right.
originally, be right, be right. My plan was originally I was going to do that, and then the day after I was going to do Brits under 82s. But I have
Oh,
actually, in fact, decided against that idea because my poor old body will not tolerate that at all. I don't think.
yeah.
So I was planning on it. I was getting it ready. But do you know the biggest deciding factor was actually the fact that I really want to go out on the sesh after the Scottish Strength Cup, and I won't be able to
The
do that.
sesh? Do you mean that by the after party?
The sesh, the big sesh. And I thought, well, if I go to Brits, I won't be able to do that, will I? Because I'll have to fucking weigh in, ready for that horrible comp the next day. So I thought, nah,
Right.
fuck it. I'd rather go out round Edinburgh and get absolutely hammered.
I always say if you don't win the comp, just win the after party.
Exactly. That's all everybody remembers. They only care about the fucking after party, do they? They don't
And
care
that's
about
the
how you
thing,
did.
a lot of the people, like, while they're competing, will have resting bitch face, or they'll be so focused they won't want to talk to you. But I'm a bit of a social butterfly, and I love having a chat, and I love getting to know people, especially if it's like an international show and you've all traveled from, all over the world. The after
Yeah.
party is where you actually really get to know the people, because they're relaxed, they're in their true self, and you can have good conversations with a bit of Dutch courage on the side as well.
100%, yeah, 100%. I always find it's the most fun part of a comp for me is afterwards going out on the sesh, having a few bevs with everybody. Even if you're
Yeah.
just in an Airbnb with your mates, like just doesn't matter
Mm.
what type of sesh, as long as it is a sesh. I'm
It's
in.
the journey, right? If you're all
Yeah,
staying together and you're getting ready together, and then you're all hungover
yeah.
together, getting greasy food together. It's
It's
like
just
this
class, isn't
whole
it?
journey.
Yeah, it's part of the fun of competing, I think. But
Mm. I
oh
do
well,
miss
this
that about strongman. I thought, well, I have turned 40 just recently, so
it's not that's
seeing
not
how
an
we go with
excuse to get out of the sesh. That's a shit excuse.
the
Not at all. Right. Well, before we move on then to the final section of the podcast, because I don't want to keep you too long, because I'm aware we're running so late, mainly because I'm a fucking idiot. But have we got any other strongman bugs we would like to bear? Any more gossip we would like to get off our chest? Anything you'd like to tell anybody before we move on to some silly goosing?
Mm, I really like the fact that there's the natural pathway. Like,
Yeah.
I know that's been around for like a few years, but I got out of strongman like in early 2023, and I wasn't really aware of it at that time.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like now I that would be something that would interest me, because I
Hmm.
do love strongman, but right now I'm on my weightlifting trajectory, and there's still stuff I want to achieve in weightlifting. But I had thought about coming back as a master's strong woman and going down like
Do
the
it.
natural pathway. I will be helping out at the Australian qualifier, which is in May, 17th and
Awesome.
18th of May. That's held in Brisbane. I think I'm emceeing. I think I'm emceeing or
Exciting.
reffing. I'm doing one of the two. And I really want to see like the level of athletes that are coming. I think there's 100 competitors,
Wow.
and yeah, and I did strongman for 7 years, so the implements aren't foreign to me. The sport isn't foreign to me, but it's just can my body keep up with it, keep up with the weights? Because yeah, as I said, when you get old, you're a bit slower, and like your recovery takes longer, and yeah, so that's really cool. The natural pathways. The other little like bugbear I have is like some records and like reffing standards.
Yeah.
If you're setting a record, I mean, make sure there's like a person who can judge you properly, that know the standards, that know the rules, that know what a good lockout looks like,
Yep.
that knows what stability overhead looks like.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with you on
There's
that
always
one.
that's
Like,
always going to be a topic of contention, isn't it?
I think until there's an overarching federation that creates an actual set of rules for us to follow, that we're
Mm.
never going to be able to get consistency across refereeing. Never.
Well, something that the Australia's Strongest Federation has done is they just recently they were doing workshops on like how to be a referee and how to be like one of the helpers and describe the roles.
Yeah.
And they're going through what the standards look like, and you have to do that workshop or that little course that they run before you can help out at their competitions. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
the Australia's Strongest Federation is doing that kind of stuff now, which I think is a stepping stone, and it's a way forward to make the standards consistent across the board.
Yeah.
And reffing is something that I do like to do, and I'm a
Hmm.
stickler. If your elbows aren't locked out, I'm not going to give you the rep. Same
Yeah.
with people like touch and going deadlift reps or something when it's supposed to be reset reps, like up, down, and they're just like dropping barbells and stuff. It's like, no, that's a half rep. That you're not
Yeah.
in CrossFit, it's strongman.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I'm
And
with
so
you.
I feel like, for the fairness, there needs to be that standard so that people are like it's consistent across the board and people aren't just getting records when it's not up to snuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I like that Australia are doing it already. It would just be handy if everyone else decided to do it. But it's
You have
getting
to be
there. I think
patient.
year on year it's getting there. There's a group of old judges and referees that just seem to will not just fuck off and leave us all alone to bring
Mm.
in a bit of new blood and a bit of like actual understanding of the sport. But at some point they'll have to fuck off, won't they? And we'll be fine.
Because there's quite a lot of federations. Like, I don't know if this is worldwide, but I know
Hundreds.
in Australia there's certainly like four that I can think of.
Yeah.
Um, and, rather than having like politics between the federations, how about we all just, hold hands and sing kumbaya and all work together? Because at the end of the day, we're here for strongman, and it's
Yeah.
the sport that we fell in love with, and the community, not the politics of how much money they're charging for a competition. You can't sign up to this one because we have beef with you, or we don't
Yeah.
like your coach, so they can't come in the athlete warm up area, and shit like that. But I think it's that stuff might not ever change, because there's
Mm,
personality clashes wherever you go, or there's
yeah.
different opinions, and add like PEDs to that where people can get quite hot headed.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the way. But I'm just like smile and nod, be Switzerland, be
Yeah.
transparent.
Yeah.
Don't
No.
cause a rough in the middle of a competition somewhere. I put my hand up to help out for comms because I still want to be very active in the sport. And it has given me a little bit of an itch to want to come back to it through the natty pathway. Maybe
Nice.
next year I'll see how I go.
Yeah, do it, and then come and do worlds. Have a class.
Natty Worlds. That's in
Hell
is
yeah.
it Ireland, is it?
I think it's in Ireland. Yeah, it's Ireland this year, but I think maybe it's Scotland. I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm not doing
I
the natties
always
at the
love a
moment,
good
so I don't
excuse
know.
to travel overseas. If I can do it competing as well, that would be good. And like I said, the road trip, the camaraderie, going with friends, the sesh afterwards.
Absolutely. All the important things.
Yeah.
No, I love it. All right, right, let's move on then and do some silly goosing.
Silly goose. It's silly goose time where our lips get loose and our minds run free. Silly goose. It's silly goose time where we chat a load of shit that's of absolutely no use. It's silly goose time.
So, do you have any silly gooses you would like to bring to the
Dude,
table?
I prepared some.
Yes, let's go.
Do you know the would you rathers?
Yes.
Yeah. So, would you rather be a torso with no legs and arms, or a torso with legs and no arms? And why?
So I've got to have either no legs and arms or just legs.
So, no legs or no arms, but you're a torso regardless. So, you can have
Right.
one limb or the other.
Do I have my head?
You have your head, yes.
I
The
would like
trunk,
to have.
you have all of your trunk in your head, but would you like to pick stuff up and be like in a wheelchair, or would you like to walk around and not be able to touch anything because you don't have any hands?
I would definitely much rather have no legs. For sure.
Really?
Yes, 100%.
Mm.
I feel like mobility aids in this day and age. You got no legs, you're laughing. You'll be all right. You get around. No arms, oh, difficult. You never open another door in your life, are you? Nightmare.
Well, I'm the opposite. They have bionic arms these days. If I couldn't run away from a bear that was chasing me, like I would
Like
want to
that.
have my leg. Plus, leg
Like
day
that
is my favorite day
circumcised.
of the week to train. So if I couldn't do squats, it wouldn't be worth living.
I'd love not to be able to ever do legs again. I'd be over the moon. Absolutely. If I could wake up and know that my legs would never hurt again, I'd be like, yes,
Yeah.
let's
So you're
go.
going to go with the arms, and I'm going to go with having legs.
Lovely.
It's
We'd
interesting to hear
make
people's
a real person.
responses to these kind of questions, because it's like, yeah,
This is
What,
why I always ask them at the end, just to see what people's heads are like.
what I've got another. Would you rather? Would you rather lose your sight or lose your memories?
Probably my memories. I'm an embarrassing person at the best of times. I don't need to remember half the stuff that I've done. To be honest, if you ask a lot of my friends, they would probably say you probably lose your memory all the time anyway, because my memory is a shocker, genuinely shocking. People like tell me stories about myself that I've done, like things I've done in the last like couple of weeks, and I'm like, I never did that. No.
Mm.
I- Sometimes I can be like,
Yeah,
I've
I
never
would
seen you
hate to
before in
lose
my
my
life, and I'm
sight
like,
as well. I would
yeah,
hate to lose my sight.
too many good
Any
things
of
to
the
watch on
senses really, but they
Netflix.
do say if you lose one sense, then your other ones become a bit more alive. Like people that are blind, their hearing is like impeccable.
Yeah. I feel like my I would just be too like I don't know what the word is. I don't think my hearing would help me anymore. I think it would probably just get worse. I feel like the minute I lost my sight, that would be it. I'd crumble into nothing. I'd be useless.
Hmm.
I'd
Have
just be
you
no good to anyone.
have you got any other good would you rathers? I
I
can
don't
think of
think I
like some
do.
really dirty ones, but they're probably not appropriate for the podcast. I'll tell you after.
Yeah, no, we don't want the podcast getting taken off YouTube straight away.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
need it up for a bit at least. I don't really do would you rather's. I was going to ask you if you know anything about the Bermuda Triangle because I'm still looking for somebody who's an expert on it.
No, I mean I know what it is, but other than that, nope. Are you going to go visit it or?
I'm going to have to at this point. I've backed myself into a corner with it, to be honest. I need to just go and visit and work out what the crack is because I keep asking everybody and no one knows. So I'll have to find out.
Like you want to climb up a mountain?
I don't know. I just think I want to sail through the middle of it and just like
Oh,
see what
yes. That would be
happens, see
nice.
if I get like off track or off course. But
Mm.
then I'm not very good on boats. I get really seasick. Would you rather fly or
Oh,
would you rather swim?
flying so you could get everything from like a bird's eye view.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, I think I'd probably rather swim, but that's because I just don't want to be seasick anymore.
Take a Stemetil.
Oh, what's that?
Stemetil, it's a medication that works on your vestibular reflex, like in your ear, which is the part of the like the brain that makes you get motion sickness. So yeah, Stemetil is just an over-the-counter drug that you get here. See if it
I'll
works.
give
Or
that a
on
go.
Danzatron, that's another antiemetic.
I'll give that a go because I'm awful, awful on a boat. I'm not great on a plane, to be honest. I'm just not great in when motion sickness. I'm terrible on roller coasters.
I'd love to see how that goal pans out for you if you visit, if you sail, if you fly. One
Yeah,
thing
most of the time.
I remember when I went to South Africa for the Arnold Classic, after that, I went on a big traveling holiday to like Zimbabwe, Zambia, Mozambique, and the Kruger National Park. And when I was in Zimbabwe, going over Victoria Falls, which is one of the wonders of the world, it was fantastic seeing it from a helicopter view because
Yeah,
when you go there and you're walking around on foot, yes, you can appreciate like the waterfalls. They're big, they're beautiful, they're gushing, like they're loud. There's rainbows because like the mist that comes out. You have to wear like a big parka jacket when you're walking through the rock section. But seeing it from a bird's eye view as you were flying over, the length and breadth of it, it was just insane to see it from a different view. So
yeah,
I
I
think
bet.
both can be appreciated and can be, you can marvel at the beauty of it, but like
Yeah,
flying would probably be my preference.
yeah, that's fair enough.
Mm.
What's your favourite Australian delicacy? We're just going quick fire rounds now. Got too many questions.
I do love prawns that are done on like a hot plate where they're almost like charred and they have that really barbecuey flavor. We don't
So
really
prawns
say
off
throw
the
shrimp on
barbie.
barbie, but I do love shrimp if it's cooked well with like a buttery kind of sauce. I can dream about that in my calorie deficit at the moment.
I love that. I love how Australian that answer was as well. You just didn't let me down there at all. It was
What
a
is your
shrimp.
favorite Australian like colloquialism? Like, have you met many Aussies and do you know kind of like the slang that we might use or jokes that we might say?
So the only time I've ever really come into contact with a lot of Australians is when I was in Niseko. So you can imagine how
Oh,
that was.
really? Not at
Yeah.
OSG?
No,
We had
no.
quite a few Aussies go over to the last OSG, and like a couple of them got in the top 10 as well.
Yeah.
Um,
There was some
mm,
at Natty Worlds as well because there was Meg Clark
Camilla.
and Camilla. Yeah, so I
Mhm.
spoke to both of them and they were both very sound. But yeah, my majority of experience has been Niseko, and that was the
Yeah,
biggest thing out
full of
there.
Australia.
Yeah, it was Australia Day, like National
Oh,
Australia Day, which was just wild.
yeah.
Absolutely. There was did you ever go in the pub called Wild Bill's?
Oh, it's gross. Yeah.
Minging. Yeah,
Yeah.
I spent
Absolute minging. Yeah.
years in there. Yeah,
Like,
years and
hey,
years. Rough, really rough, but
did you
hilarious.
know like an Australian saying or like a mannerism or something that really kind of like stuck in your head that Aussies say or do?
I think so. I don't think I can say it on the podcast though.
The C word.
Yeah,
They say that all
so
the time.
that was the
But
only thing anyone said.
we say Sheila when we're, talking about like a woman.
Mm,
Um, and you guys would say bird, I guess.
yeah,
Um,
a bird.
yeah. How you going, Sheila? Shazza, we like to abbreviate everything. So anyone whose name's John, we'll call him like Jono. Barry will be Bazar. Um, Beck
I
will,
love
I
that.
guess, will just be Bex. But yeah, the nicknames that we give each other. Say, for example, I've got red hair and my name is actually Red, but people would call me Bluey, because it's like opposite. You would like say, a name or someone who is maybe really, really tall, like 6'5", we'd call them Tiny.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. It's like everything's just a little bit backwards, isn't it?
yeah,
It's like
like
it's the
say
right thing,
something
but not quite.
specific. That's like sort of the Australian humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, is you'll give someone a nickname. Like my friend's last name is Donald, and we call him Ducky.
Great.
Ducky.
That's
Yeah,
absolutely class. I love that. Nah, I'm
you have to
coming
come
out
and
to
visit.
Australia. Yeah,
I'm holding you to that.
I'll make a plan. I'll make a plan. We'll sort out our strong woman ski trip and we'll sort out
Oh
a trip
yeah.
to Australia and you can come to Natty Worlds. We're gonna be best friends now, Red. We're gonna meet
Do
each
you think
other
we're still
every other
best
week.
friends?
This is how it always begins.
Oh, I love it. And that's the beauty of, social media is you can connect with people overseas. Like your podcast came up in my feed as like pages you would follow. I was following your personal page anyway, and Jen as well. And then I started listening to a couple of episodes and then, I heard you say if you'd like to be on the potty, just get in touch. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to message her and I'm going to tell her that
Hell
she's
yeah.
awesome and that I'd love to come and have a chat. And I'm
Oh, I
so
love
glad I
that. No, I absolutely love that. I literally played that voice note to so many of my friends. I was like, oh my God, have you seen this? Have you heard this? I've got
did.
fans.
You think I have a strong Australian accent?
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
I do.
definitely.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a
100%.
little bit mixed because I've spent so long traveling and like years of time overseas in different countries. And my mum's Scottish and my dad's a Yank,
Yeah.
but I was born here, so sometimes it can be mixed. When I get on the piss, it might be a little bit different as well.
I know mine is. I go like deep York. I usually deep Yorkshire's more of my like day-to-day voice. When I'm
Mm.
smashed, it's like northeast through and through. I like sound like I'm from Newcastle. I'm going to beat your head in.
And
Trying
just
to
like
do
in
that.
England, where the different parts there will be slightly different accents, the same is, for Australians. Like the far north Queenslanders sound like, they're from like the country out in the desert, and people down in Adelaide are a bit more posh. Yeah, and like I grew up in Sydney, but I live in like Brisbane now. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm kind of a little bit all over the place.
yeah. No, it's awesome. I love it. Oh, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
Probably Instagram is the best platform. It is at redalicious_strongwoman.
Nice, awesome stuff. And have you got anything you want to plug, anything you want to sell, anything you want to talk about before we go?
Oh, well, I am wearing my Cerberus hoodie. They have been sponsoring me
Wow,
since 2019. Yeah, long time.
nice,
Yeah, just can't wait to meet you in person finally. Um,
awesome.
Stay tuned for the next 7 weeks, my international weightlifting debut. And stay tuned for maybe next year as a Masters Strongwoman.
Woohoo, we can't wait. Oh, well, brilliant stuff. Well, if you want to find Red, we'll tag her in the show notes below. So if you've enjoyed that episode, give us a shout, let us know, and we hope to all see you on the next one. Goodbye now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Strong Woman Highs, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to support the podcast, then please give us a follow on Instagram. Or if you would like, we're also on buymeacoffee.com/strongwomanhighs. This is where you can send us tips, or you can also join our membership area, which is $5 a month or £4 a month. It's the silly gosling level. We'll post out any extra content that we get on there, and hopefully a few little like free giveaways of things as well. The podcast currently doesn't cost a lot to run, which is what we're trying to keep it as, but we would like to be able to cover our costs, and also once those costs are covered, any profit that is made on Strong Woman Highs will be getting saved up and put into a pot for future Strong Woman competitions that we can sponsor. So if you have a Strong Woman competition that you'd like to be sponsored, or if you want to be on the podcast, then give us a shout, send me a message on Instagram or on YouTube, anywhere else you can get us, and we'll get it sorted, because the more women that we can get on, the better. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye!